Greetings. Today we continue our study of the judgment of economic Babylon, part 2 from Revelation chapter 18. This will be the third installment and the final one on part 2. We left off yesterday reading about how things would not be available, how the laws of supply and demand will change. We need to learn the difference between needs and greeds, as I used to hear my dad say. He's talking about the excessive luxury over a met need would be the definition of a greed. So let me give a few quick examples. If I need a watch to keep time, then, and I'll use an outdated brand so not to get into any conflicts about branding, a Timex from Walmart would meet my need. But if I just have to have a Rolex from, the highest priced jewelry store in town instead, then that would be a greed. Or, an Apple Watch or something like that. If I need a suit of clothes, then one off the clearance rack down at, my favorite department store, Belk, would meet my need. But if I have to have a custom tailor-made suit instead, well, that would be a greed. If I had to have a brand new Rolls Royce instead of a used Honda Civic to get me everywhere, that would be a greed and not a need. I think you get the idea. Notice also the self-interest in the mourning of the merchants of the earth, the ones having become rich with her. When they see the destruction of economic Babylon, they stand afar off and mourn because of the fear of her torment. They're not mourning for her, but because they fear that they will be next. In fact, they know they are next. Simply consider words which they speak. Verse 15, the merchants of these things, the ones having become rich from her, from afar away they stand because of the fear of her particular torture, weeping and sorrowing and saying, the merchants are saying, woe, woe, the great particular city, the one having clothed and remaining clothed herself with fine linen, even purple and scarlet, and having been adorned and remaining so with gold and precious stone and pearl, because in 1 hour the so great wealth she was destroyed. Consider the words of their associates in verse 17. And every pilot and all the company upon the ships and sailors, and however many there are making a living by the sea, they stood afar off, and having seen the smoke of her particular burning, they're crying out and saying, who is like to this great particular city? And they did cast dust upon their particular heads, and they were crying and weeping aloud and sorrowing, saying, woe, woe, the great particular city in which they became wealthy, all the ones having ships in the sea, from her particular preciousness, because in 1 hour she was destroyed. This is sorrow without repentance. This is mourning without profit. They're mourning about the consequences of their sin, but they're not mourning about the sin which brought about the consequence to start with. The spirit of iniquity already exists and grows day by day in the world system in which we're living. My prayer is that we will understand its significance in relationship to the second coming of Christ, and that we'll heed the warning given. Do not participate in her sins, so you will not have to participate in the judgment for her sins. We must prepare, we must watch, and we must warn our family, friends, and acquaintances accordingly.